Welcome to my story. I never imagined that a single person could turn my life upside down. Yet, here I am trying to make sense of everything that has happened. My name is Maya, and this is the story of how my mother-in-law changed my life forever. It all began when I married Daniel, the man I had loved since college. Our wedding was beautiful, filled with laughter, flowers, and promises of a happy life. But soon after, I began to notice little tensions, small differences that I had never imagined could exist in my family life. Daniel's mother, Mrs. Thompson, was not cruel, at least not in a way I could immediately recognize. She was quiet, observing, and sometimes her eyes seemed to peer straight into my soul. I couldn't tell if it was suspicion, concern, or something else entirely. At first, I tried to ignore it. I told myself that she only wanted the best for her son, that perhaps she was struggling to accept me as part of the family. But the feelings of unease grew, subtle at first, like shadows at the edge of a room. Every smile she gave felt weighed with judgment. Every question seemed loaded with expectation. Even simple things like choosing what to cook for dinner or how I arranged the living room suddenly became moments of quiet scrutiny. One rainy evening, Daniel had to work late, and I found myself alone in the house with Mrs. Thompson. I tried to make conversation, asking her about family traditions and her own experiences raising Daniel. She smiled politely, but gave answers that felt distant, almost rehearsed. Then, almost out of nowhere, she asked me a question that stopped me cold. "Do you really know what it means to be part of this family?" Her voice was soft, but there was something in it that sent chills down my spine. I opened my mouth to answer, but the words seemed to vanish. How could I explain that I loved her son, that I wanted to belong, that I only wanted harmony? She didn't wait for an answer. She simply nodded as if she already knew what I was thinking and turned away to look out the window at the pouring rain. That night, I lay awake in bed, my thoughts swirling. Was she testing me, judging me, or was there something deeper, something hidden in her quiet demeanor that I could not yet understand? I didn't know, but I had a strange sense that my life was about to change in ways I could never imagine. And I was right. The next morning, she called me into the kitchen with a sense of urgency that made my heart race. "Maya," she said, her eyes serious yet calm, "I need to tell you something important about our family, about Daniel, and about yourself." I felt my stomach tighten. Something big was coming, something that would challenge everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and family. And at that moment, I realized that my journey with my mother-in-law was only just beginning. When she spoke, I could feel the weight of her words before they even left her lips. Mrs. Thompson's calm voice carried something I could not ignore, quiet authority that made my heart pound with both fear and curiosity. "Maya," she began, "I know you love Daniel, but love alone does not guarantee happiness in a family like ours." I blinked, trying to steady my racing thoughts. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She turned and looked at me with eyes that seemed older than time itself. "This family has a history of misunderstandings, of secrets that linger silently, affecting everyone who enters it. You must understand Daniel's happiness, and yours depend on how you navigate these truths." Clichés. I felt my chest tighten. What could she possibly mean? Secrets. I had married into this family thinking that all I needed was love and patience. But now, with her words hanging in the air, I realized that love alone might not be enough. Over the next few days, her actions became more deliberate. She started sharing stories about her past, stories about sacrifices she had made, about challenges that Daniel had faced growing up and the burdens the family had carried for generations. At first, I listened with polite curiosity, but slowly a pattern emerged. Every story had a lesson. Every memory carried a warning, and I realized she was preparing me, shaping me, testing me in ways I couldn't yet understand. One afternoon, she invited me to help her in the kitchen. I hesitated, unsure if it was a gesture of kindness or another quiet test. But as I worked alongside her, chopping vegetables and stirring sauces, she began to speak softly, almost confidentially. Maya, you have strength, but strength alone is not enough. Compassion, patience, and wisdom. These are the qualities that will allow you to survive and even thrive in this family. Do you understand? I nodded, but inside, doubt nodded at me. Could I really live up to the expectations of someone who seemed to see through me, who knew my fears before I even acknowledged them? That evening, Daniel returned from work, cheerful and unaware of the storm brewing quietly at home. He hugged me, kissed me on the forehead, and chatted about his day. I tried to join him, to focus on his warmth, but my mind kept returning to my mother-in-law. Her words had unsettled me in a way I could not shake. Later, when Daniel had gone to sleep, I found myself sitting alone in the living room, staring at the framed photographs of his childhood. Each smile, each moment frozen in time, now seemed to carry a hidden meaning. And I began to understand that Mrs. Thompson was not merely observing me, she was guiding me, preparing me for something far greater than I could imagine. A few days later, the first real test arrived, a minor family crisis. Something that would seem insignificant to an outsider, but to us, it was monumental. I was asked to make a decision that would impact not only Daniel, but the entire family's future. My hands trembled, my heart pounded, and I realized that this was only the beginning. My relationship with my mother-in-law was evolving into something I could never have anticipated. A bond forged in challenges, misunderstandings, and heart-shaking truths. And as I looked across the kitchen at her calm, steady face, I knew one thing for certain. My life would never be the same again. The night it all happened is etched in my memory as clearly as if it were yesterday. I had been walking on eggshells for weeks, trying to understand the subtle lessons and warnings Mrs. Thompson had been giving me. I thought I was ready, but nothing could have prepared me for what came next. It started with a phone call. My younger sister-in-law, Emily, was crying so hard I could barely understand her words. "Maya, it's Daniel. He's in trouble, the company, everything." I dropped the phone, my heart racing. Trouble? Daniel's work had always been challenging, but nothing like this. I ran to the living room, and as if sensing the shift in the air, Mrs. Thompson appeared at the doorway. Her expression was calm, almost serene, but her eyes were sharper than ever. "Sit down, Maya," she said softly, guiding me to the sofa. "This is what I meant when I said this family has secrets, burdens, and tests. You are about to face one that will define your place here." I swallowed hard, confusion and fear knotting in my stomach. "What do you mean?" I asked. She took a deep breath. "Daniel has been working tirelessly on a family project, one that holds not just financial value, but emotional weight as well. A betrayal from someone he trusted has put everything at risk. And now it falls to you, yes, you, to step in." My mind reeled. How could I help? I am just his wife. What power do I have in this storm? Over the next few hours, the truth unraveled piece by piece. Daniel had been deceived by a business partner, someone who pretended to be loyal, someone who exploited his trust. If the mistake wasn't corrected immediately, the family would lose not only money, but their reputation and honor. I looked at Mrs. Thompson, helpless and scared, and then I saw something I had not seen before. She was not just testing me, she was teaching me how to act under pressure, how to think clearly when everything seems to collapse. "Do you trust yourself, Maya?" she asked quietly. Her words struck me like a lightning bolt. Trust myself? Of course, I had always trusted Daniel, but now I had to trust my own judgment. I had to rise to the challenge. I spent the night working alongside her, examining documents, making phone calls, and finding ways to correct the errors. I felt my hands shaking, my voice quivering, but I kept going. Step by step, Mrs. Thompson guided me, correcting my mistakes, praising my small victories, and pushing me when I wanted to give up. By dawn, we had uncovered the truth. The betrayal was exposed, the damage minimized, and Daniel's work saved. When he returned home, exhausted and worried, He found me sitting at the kitchen table, papers spread around me, a small smile on my face. You did this?" he asked, stunned. I nodded, trying to hide the exhaustion. "We did it together." Mrs. Thompson watched from the doorway, her eyes soft now, almost proud. "You see, Maya, strength is not measured by what you endure alone, but by how you rise in moments of crisis, how you protect those you love." And at that moment, I understood that the woman I had feared, resented, and misunderstood was not just my mother-in-law. She was a guide, a mentor, and a force that changed everything in my life. For the first time, I felt a true bond forming between us. Not one of obligation or fear, but of respect, understanding, and shared purpose. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window, painting everything in warm gold, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of calm. Daniel was still asleep, exhausted from the long night, and I took a moment to breathe, to reflect on what had happened. Mrs. Thompson entered quietly, carrying 2 cups of tea. "You did well, Maya," she said softly. There was no hint of judgment in her tone, only recognition. "You faced fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and you prevailed." I smiled, though my heart was still racing. "I couldn't have done it without you," I admitted. "I didn't understand before. I thought you were harsh, controlling, but now I see you were guiding me all along." Her eyes glistened with a mix of pride and tenderness. Every family faces storms. It is not the storm itself that matters, but how we weather it and who stands with us. At that moment, Daniel stirred and sat up, rubbing his eyes. "Maya, I can't believe you handled everything. I don't even know how to thank you." I reached for his hand. "You don't need to thank me. We are family. That's what we do." Later that day, the family gathered in the living room. There was laughter, tentative at first, as stories and concerns were shared. Mrs. Thompson sat back, watching quietly, but I could see her eyes shine with satisfaction. She had taught me lessons that no words alone could convey, lessons about courage, empathy, and love that binds a family through the toughest of times. I realized then that everything had changed. The tension that had once dominated our household had dissolved into understanding and respect. I felt a deep connection to my mother-in-law, a bond built not on obligation, but on trust and shared experiences. As I looked around at my family, I knew that even when life throws the darkest moments our way, strength, compassion, and unity can light the path forward. And sometimes the person who seems the most formidable may just be the one who changes everything. I held Mrs. Thompson's hand for a moment, feeling the warmth and wisdom that had guided me through the storm. "Thank you," I whispered. She smiled, the corners of her eyes crinkling. "The real thanks goes to yourself, Maya. You found your courage when it mattered most." And in that instant, I understood that family is not just about blood or tradition. It's about love, guidance, and the power to change each other's lives for the better. If you enjoyed this heartfelt family story and want to improve your English while listening to engaging emotional narratives, don't forget to subscribe to Learn English by Stories. Here you can practice listening, learn new vocabulary, and enjoy stories that touch the heart. Click the bell icon so you never miss a story that will move you and help you speak English fluently. Subscribe now and join our learning family.